talk about, building a unicorn from a tier 2 to 3 location, building global businesses from rural locations. And the speaker for the session, ladies and gentlemen, is Mr. Anish Achuthan, a seasoned fintech entrepreneur with over 17 years of trailblazing experience as the CEO and co-founder of Open Financial Technologies Private Limited. Mr. Anish has spearheaded various ventures in mobile payments and banking solutions, revolutionizing business banking for SMEs and startups across Asia. So for those who are interested in fintech, this is your session, and that too fintech that can be even developed from rural areas, tier 2 to 3 cities. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we have the privilege of hearing from Anish, a globally recognized speaker at major fintech conferences, renowned for his visionary insights and transformative ideas. He will be taking us, Mr. Anish will be taking us on a journey from tier 3 locales to building unicorns, showcasing the remarkable potential of talent from less prominent areas in shaping global businesses. So, are you ready for that? Yes? Okay, so let us together welcome Mr. Anish Achuthan, the CEO and co-founder of Open Financial Technologies, on stage.
Good afternoon, Calicut. So, firstly, before the introduction, I would like to thank the entire KTX team for organizing such a wonderful event. I never expected that this event would be of this scale when initially I was invited for this thing. Compared to many of the events that happens in Bangalore or even outside India, this is actually world class. So firstly, kudos to the entire team for organizing such a thing, and to the entrepreneurship spirit of Calicut. So in this next 25 minutes, I had been asked to probably deliver a keynote on how entrepreneurs from tier 2, tier 3 cities and towns can build scalable businesses. Now, probably one thing which I can do is a little bit I will take you through my journey, my learnings, my failures, whatever little things I had actually, which I can actually share with the fellow entrepreneurs on this thing. Some of this would be boring, so you have to bear a little with me. So just a little brief about me and what do I do. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Open Financial Technologies. Open is a SME digital banking platform. Today we powers over 40 lakh SMEs and small businesses in India. We work with, our platform powers 16 out of the top 20 banks in the country, right from an SBI, HDFC, Axis, you name it, and we power that. We started in 2017. We raised over close to 1,500 crores in funding, backed by Google, Visa, Temasek, Tiger Global, and 14 other investors. We are a team of 4 co-founders. We are about 500 people. While we are registered out of the small town which is 70 kilometers away from Calicut, Perindalmanna. We operate out of Bangalore, and that's also something which I will probably also share about it why, and we have around 500 people. So today, while I'll try to limit bragging about myself and my story, and it's more important for what can I actually share with this fellow budding entrepreneurs. As I mentioned, I probably have to take you through a little bit of my journey, and then I can actually bring the relation to that. So I grew up in this small town of Perindalmanna. And by around after my 10th, I dropped out to do my first startup. Now, what inspired me to do a startup is that for all my childhood, I wanted to become a journalist. So, reading different newspapers, and thanks to my parents who are sitting over here, they would always fortunate enough to supplement with all the resources that could actually help me in terms of knowledge. And my parents were government officials. My mother used to be a teacher. Father used to work in the PWD department. by around 10th, while reading across different these things, I came across the stories of startups, and 2000 was the time when there was this dot-com boom that was actually happening in the US, and one of the articles in Malayalam Manorama, a Sunday supplement about the story of Sabir Bhatia really inspired me that, okay, hey, you don't really need money to start a business, because till that time the perception was that, okay, if you need to start, you really need to be born in a family-run business, or you need to have like access to money. And that's when the article also talked about this concept of venture capitalists, where, if you have ideas, then there are like people who want like to invest on that thing. Now, after my 10th, I created my first website. I was trying to research more on, more about the venture capitalism and the startup ecosystem. And Peridhalmana didn't have any internet cafe, so I used to always, like, on my weekends, travel to Calicut. There was a Dishnet DSL internet cafe on Mau Road, which was where basically my initial knowledge about, the internet and all helped. So probably I realized that maybe because I'm in a very small town. By the way, Peridhalmana is not that small town as I think, but just for the sake of like telling, I'm just talking about. I thought maybe that's the reason why people don't really understand about startups and venture capitalists. Maybe a city like Trivandrum would, if I go there, everybody would be talking about startups. There would be conversation about VCs. So that's where I decided to actually move into that city to do my first .com startup. This was in 2002. Initial few years were really tough. You don't really have enough support system, and I realized that probably I was wrong. People were not really able to understand, like, the mode of like startups and associated things. Initial few years I had to stay in a temple and the railway station because that helped me to survive in terms of like the staying while on during the daytime with my few friends. We were able to run this business from an internet cafe. 2005 is what Asianet acquired that business, and that was my first break into this thing. So I just joined Asianet. Later, I was launched a mobile payment service for Asianet, which didn't really work well. It was too much ahead of its time. Then I moved out and started another startup called CashNext, which later got acquired by a Latin American company. Then did another startup called Neartivity Wireless, which failed big time. And then I joined a company called PayU, one of the largest payment gateways. Was at the age of like 27th, I was the youngest part of their senior leadership globally, built PayU to one of the largest payment gateways, and then moved back to Bangalore, joined a company called OnMobile, headed their global m-commerce product unit, started again another payment company called Switch, which got acquired by Citrus. Citrus got acquired by PayU, so moved to PayU and then started Open. I went it too fast, and because I thought like this is not much of a relevance, but the few things that I wanted to tell to these entrepreneurs in the initial journeys, like, the journey of like, if some entrepreneur would come today and ask me like, what should I do in terms of like scaling up my startup, I would always say is that firstly start, fail, and then scale. The initial 10 years of my journey of building startups which didn't do really well, that actually helped me with the foundation of like for the next 10-15 years in terms of, because as a startup entrepreneur you get into everything. You start writing NDAs, you drafting legal documents, you start writing your proposals, you start going for sales, you try understanding technology, you may end up coding, you may start building your product, your UX, everything. So it's like a multiple experiences. Now the other thing is like, I always used to ask myself like, probably when your startups fail, who would give you a job to a 10 standard pass out or a 10 standard dropout? In fact, what and this is always my biggest concern, but I realized today, and I tell to all of these fellow entrepreneurs, that when you do a startup, it's like an MBA. It's like it builds a safety net for you when you fall. So if your startup fails, in my case, what I did was that I started writing to the CEOs of companies on LinkedIn during that 2007, 2008. And surprisingly, almost 70% of the CEOs used to write back at that point of time. And that's how I ended up my job in PayU. Similarly, like, after doing PayU, I wanted to come back to Bangalore because I always wanted to do the startup, and Bangalore was the ecosystem that would actually support, that is conductive for like, preparing for my next startup. I got interviewed in a company called Automobile Global, which is backed by Infi. Gone through all the rounds, and then the HR came to me and asked me to fill up my educational qualifications. After writing my 10th standard, it was blank, and she told like, you write rest of things. I told like only this much, and she told like, oh, you are joking, like write the rest of these things. And then she started like, she got angry. She told like, Anish, you've gone through all of those things. Why didn't you tell me that you don't have a basic graduation, or because for this particular role, apart from the experience, we're looking for IIT, IIM, and in your case, we didn't knew that, okay, you didn't even have like a graduation thing. I told like, the consultant never told me about it, and never, I was always transparent with the consultant. Anyway, story short, I was, not given that opportunity. They interviewed around 40, 50 people of 3 months. They again called me back, and then the CEO and the MD, they told like, we need to really make the changes because it's a listed company. They make the changes, and then again got me into the head of products for their global role. So again, like here, more than education, sometimes your experience actually gives you probably 5x or 6x. That doesn't mean that I will not advise anybody to drop out today, because what happens is that in the world of like too much competition and skill sets, education is one, it will actually comes handy basically in terms of getting faster, but along with that, if you also have an entrepreneurial thing, it can be just 10x out of it. Open was started in, after 2017 is what, and I started Open. And I have, as I mentioned, I have like 3 more co-founders. Fortunately or unfortunately, my other co-founder is my wife, and this was our 5th startup together. Her name is Mabel Chaco. And my 3rd co-founder is Ajish. He is our CTO, and the 4th co-founder, Dina. Now, one thing which I met Mabel while she was doing her startup, I was doing my startup. One of the New York Times article led me to her, and that's how we met. We decided to do the first 2 startups, and later we decided to got married. Ajish actually, he got probably like, he took the right path of like going to an engineering and doesn't wanted to follow my path. But one of the sessions like this, which happened in Trivandrum, organized by at that point of time, I think the government initiated Kerala Startup Mission thing, he changed his way of, okay, I need to do a startup, and then he got into like in the final year of a college, a startup called Inlocate, and later he joined me, and that's how I just met. Dina, the other co-founder, she for the last 10 years was with EY and other consulting firms, and the later part of her 10 years was with companies like Taxi for Sure, which was sold to Ola for 2000. She was a CFO and all, and that's how we met and we started Open. And our primary, so when I started Open, did I have enough money to start the company? I'm a person who never had the habit of like saving anything. Apart from the EMIs, there is always like nothing left in the bank account. And that's the time when like, we decided, okay, I decided that okay, I need to do my next startup because I can't really hold on to this job, the corporate environment. But what came in handy was my bosses at Payu, Amrish and Jiten, who are now the CEO and MD of Pine Labs and Jupiter. They gave me the first 2.5 crore check. So the other important part which I always tell to the fellow entrepreneurs is that you never know where your initial or the help would actually come up. So you would always cross path with your colleagues and your this thing. So ensure that if you really do well, there will always be people who will be there to support. That's how the journey started. And 3 months, 4 months into our journey, we were into the business of like building a digital bank without a license. So we would actually partner with a bank of a current account, along with that tools to automate finances for SMEs. Now, for us, getting a banking partnership was really important. It took us like around 6 to 12 months of multiple rejections to get the first bank, ICICI Bank, to come on board. And that's a time when, again, a fund called Unicorn India Ventures, which again is a fund of funds backed by the Kerala Startup Mission. They actually approached us and told, okay, we would like to actually come and join you for an investment round. And that's a time when one of the equivalent of a Reliance in Japan, a group called Recruit Group, the 7th largest corporation, they heard about our story through one of the Economic Times article. They came on board along with Unicorn Avengers, and we raised our first 12 crores, which was the initial boost. Now, the point again here is that for many of the startups entrepreneurs, when I met them, they said that, okay, hey, I don't really focus too much on my PR, or I don't really want to talk about it. Somebody would steal my idea, or like, let me actually get some ex-customers, then only I'll talk about it. But it's very important to do the storytelling and the branding right from the beginning. Even before your product is out, it's very important that, okay, you actually reaches out. If you're in Kerala, reach out to like a Roshan from Madhrubhumi or a Manorama, or like a Your Story or an Economic Times to get this. Because this is how probably like, investors would also, or your investors are also your prospective partners or customers, right? They would actually come to. In our case, we always ensured that right from the beginning, we focused heavily on branding. It costs you absolutely, it costs you like ₹0 to actually get a journalist to write your story about, write your story. Then later the business started growing. We launched the service. We got into the first 50,000 small businesses on our platform, and that's when another fund called BNext and 314 Capital, they came on board, gave us the first, I think the 4 million, close to around 30-35 crores of funding. With that funding, again, we took this customer base from 50,000 to 5 lakh. Again, during that time, we were not profitable. And then this, again, this story reached Tiger Global. So one fine morning they came, met us, and within a week they actually gave a term sheet for a 250 crore funding. And later the story continued. I'm not going to too much talk about those things. And then Google came on board, and Temasek, and the last round IFL invested us at $1 billion valuation. Now the things which I see mostly from the I could see, I was just walking around today in the hall, and I see a lot of like good software SaaS companies out of here. The moment like when I go to Trivandrum, in Cochin, there is like a lot of like, things are a lot different than if you really look at like what this ecosystem is 2 years back. And people, now everybody actually respects startups, and people, now we all have access to the same set of like resources, mostly in terms of information and research with our metro counterparts. But the one challenge why businesses are not growing is that while I'm also part of the governing body of Kerala Startup Mission, the Kerala government, NASCOM. I mean, there are a lot of like bodies, TAI, the Malamar Angels. Everybody is actually trying to create whatever they can do to build this ecosystem. Even today, like now, cities also creating that part of it. But I think the one important aspect is like, we also need to bring in a lot more equity, venture capitalists and private equity brands to Kerala, because while there has been few success stories about like, startups, it could be the likes of Gen Robotics or a few others who were able to actually raise, or CareStack. But when it comes to investing in a company which is Kerala based, many times like it is not the preferred option for a VC, because most of these VC offices, whether it is a Sequoia or most of them are based out of like Bangalore or Mumbai, and they somehow have some comfort in terms of the access to it, even though, for example, an organization like Tiger doesn't have an office proper office in India as well. But I think we, as a part of the ecosystem, we need to actually get this into it. The other option is that till that time, you need to figure out like, how do you actually get in front of them? Again, the first thing is like use your PR as a machinery to reach out to them. Many times like, people would say that, okay, can you introduce me to Tiger? Can you introduce me to that angel investor? It never works that way if you introduce, because understand like for one of our investors like 314 Capital, they get around 5,000 applications from startups for funding every month, and probably they would be investing in 4 startups every quarter or every 2 quarters. Now imagine like the number of like application these things, right? So it's always try to make your brand so strong that okay, they come after you in terms of it. That is one where you have this appear. Second is like you build the right team, the founding team. Don't try to be a solo founder. Actually build your initial founding team so strong. And also the next early stage, the next team that you are actually, apart from the founders, the initial team matters a lot in your journey. Get people who are actually visionaries, who believe in your vision, who may be ready to like take a cut from this thing. They just join you because of your dream. And also ensure that okay, you take them along throughout your journey. So building the right team is like important. And the other thing is like also get to know, take inspiration from lot what is happening outside outside India. Look at like global companies, right? So probably you would be building like a accounting software, you'll be building an ERP software, but look at like the other ERP companies, or just if there is an AI based analytic company in San Francisco which just got the 100K funding. Look at the way in which how they brand their product, how do they actually do that thing. Take inspiration. There is nothing wrong in terms of like taking inspiration, and still you can make your own identity about it, because that's the way in you will realize that okay, hey, how should I actually focus on growth marketing, how should I actually like the way in which like the culture of my organization, etc. So I always used to take inspiration from my peers or competitions outside and even to the team. So that actually helped a lot in terms of branding, in terms of the way in which your product is being built, in terms of your UX, etc. And the other part is like a lot of this, I'm just taking an example of a sector like a SaaS companies. In India, SaaS businesses doesn't really pay for software as a service thing. So you end up building a product, you're putting a lot of effort for 3 years, and ultimately you end up like having like a 1 crore, 2 crore revenues. Start looking at like focusing the outside India market, depending on your product or the verticals. And that's what the magic that has actually happened in Chennai with Soho, and then all the offshoot of the SaaS companies over there. So sitting in like tier 2 cities, like you can actually build a lot of global businesses, because people don't really care about like where is your office, and today like you can do a lot of sales happening on digitally. So wherever possible, do that part of it. Third, in the initial phase, if possible, try not to take funding. I could see like a lot of people coming to me and saying that, hey, can you get me that 25 lakhs because I don't really have the money to develop the prototype. Firstly, the first prototypes, you should never outsource it. You should always have a tech guy. It can be like your college junior, it can be somebody studying in a part-time in a college. Get that part, the initial thing, right? If you're building a software business, definitely if you're building a hardware business, you may need money to do that. But if possible, try not to take money outside, and if possible, moonlight. There is no harm in like, working till 6 p.m. in your office, giving your full commitment to that thing, come back home, and then after 7 o'clock till your 2 a.m. working on your project. As long as you are not really trying to copy, steal anything from, you do justice to what you are getting paid for on the work part of it, right? The 6 months. The contrary, lot of people tell me that, okay, when I moonlight, I'm not able to focus too much. Maybe after, if I put my full focus, I'll be able to, the answer is wrong, because whatever idea you actually start with, when you really look back after the 6th or the 12th month, the idea would have, in 80% of the cases, you would have actually pivoted. You may find that, okay, building a AI-based chatbot for retailers would be the greatest of the greatest idea, but when you actually get into the market, you realize the market realities, right? So if possible, try to build the prototype yourself. Then always get the right set of investors. I'd seen a lot of like these companies where they would have taken money from the nearby businessman who would have actually have a traditional businessman, and they would have invested 50 lakhs or 1 crore and say that give me 50% stake in the company, give me 70% stake. It never works that way, because nobody will touch you if you have like given an investor a 50% or a 70%, because ultimately for the next round of investors, they are betting on the founder. So always ensure that, okay, you get the right set of investors who also understand about these things. And to all the investors who fascinated by angel investments and, okay, this is the fastest way to make money, just understand that the returns that you can make as an angel investor, more than the capital, is more about the passion. So if you have like, certain amount to invest in for the community, for the passion, maybe like a 50 lakhs or a 1 crore, don't expect the returns and actually give it. Maybe like, when you invest in 100, 2 of them or 3 of them can or may become like, success stories, or you get an exit through a secondary sale, etc. But always like, it takes some time basically to get into that. It's not an alternative for a mutual fund or a stock investment to invest in a startup part of it. So there's also another thing that startup founders should also be careful about it. And there is no harm in initially setting up like a virtual address in a city where you can still say that, okay, I'm a Bangalore startup, raise money, come back and set up the this part of it, because that will also help you in terms of changing that perception some of these investors have. Again, I work a lot with Kerala Startup Mission, with even some of the other community members to bring in a lot more ecosystem here in Kerala, but we also need to be really understand the realities. It takes some time. So if we have like more companies who can evangelize, who was able to raise fund, set up back in Kerala, then automatically this will come. So be smart about this. I think that's what 25 minutes was like it's very, this thing, so I was just trying to actually run very fast, touching upon key these things. Hope at least I was able to give, share some value in terms of my learnings in this journey. Once again, would like to thank all of you for listening to the story, and wishing all the budding entrepreneurs all the best. And I think by the time we look forward for the next edition of like the city, these things, we should have like, expecting like, lot many of you who are here to actually tell about your success stories over here. Thank you.